I'm going to turn your attention to the book of Luke, chapter 22, and verses 47 through 51. And then I'll read this verse, and then we'll go from there. And this is a New King James Version. If we do have a little trouble with the software, it's not cooperating with us, but so we're going to go on and try to make it work. So if it goes out and comes back on, that's what we're trying to do. And while he was speaking, everybody said, "I'm there." While he was speaking, behold, a multitude, when he who was called Judas, one of the 12, before them, and drew near to Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said to him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When those around him saw what was going to happen, they said to him, "Lord, shall we strike with a sword?" And one of them struck the servant of the high priest and cut off his right ear. But Jesus answered and said, "Permit even this." And he touched his ear and healed him. It's nighttime. It's dark. It's probably cooler than in the day. And Jesus is with his followers in a very familiar place. A place that he went often. He's there, and Judas knows of this place as well. The moonlight is what gives light to the exposure of the shadows of those that are coming. Maybe one or several torches can be seen in the distance. The noise of metal and leather can be heard as well. And the Bible read, as I just read to you, that here it is, at this moment and this time, Jesus with his closest followers, and one of them betrays him with a kiss. You have to remember not too long ago that Jesus had discussed some of these things while they sat at the Last Supper. At that supper, Jesus had mentioned about his blood and his body for the new covenant. He also exposed who the betrayer was. He didn't flat out call him by name, but we understood it was Judas. They had an argument about who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom, just like people do when they get a little position. But then they also remember Peter's confession. I love Peter so much in so many ways because I think he's a lot like a lot of us. Always willing to say, "I'm going to be there through the thick times and the tough times." And Peter said, "Even in prison or in death, I'm going to follow you." Jesus had this alarming comment to make to him to remind him, before the cock crows 3 times, you're going to deny me. And yes, that's what ended up happening. The Lord's prayer that they would not enter into temptation, as I mentioned last Sunday, but the followers, they were just a little too sleepy. The overwhelming concern and the burden that Jesus carried while he prayed caused his sweat to become drops of blood. The miracle worker was going to be betrayed by one of his closest friends, someone who knew where he would be. But the sleepy-eyed disciples, they're probably rubbing their eyes and wondering what's going on, trying to focus in on what's really going on in this nighttime event. Someone draws a sword and cuts off the ear of a servant of the high priest. What a close call. I thought about that. What a very close call. He could have cut off his head, but he cut off his ear. Imagine that story that he has for the rest of his life. But even in all that confusion, in the battle between good and evil, the Bible doesn't say if the Lord picked up his ear. It just says he healed him. And I can see Jesus in my own imagination. This is MJ's version. My own imagination. Everybody looking around. It's dark. It's late. There's torches. All this commotion. Some of the disciples are going like this, what's going on, and trying to figure out what's happening. They draw the sword, and with that one quick blow, cuts off the servant's ear. But Jesus said, no, basically stand down. Hold on a minute. This is not what I came to do. And I can see it in my imagination, Jesus picking up the ear and putting it back on the servant in that miraculous moment, he was healed. He had a story too. Yes, it happens, just like Jesus talked about. The darkest days are here, right before all of them. Jesus is taken to the high priest. Verse 54. Peter is questioned 3 different times, and he denies that he ever knew the Lord. Cock crows, and Peter runs away alone, and he's scared, and he's mad, and he weeps bitterly. Peter failed. He realized he failed. He failed at the greatest moment of his life. He wept out bitterly, went out. Time. He's brought before the council. The Lord is brought before the council of the scribes and the chief priests and the elders. Inquisitively ask him, are you the Christ? The word pretty phenomenal. He said, if I tell you, you won't believe. I've been preaching in the temple about the good things, you wouldn't receive it. The religious people are fierce. It stirs up the peoples that are around in Galilee. Pilate heard this, and they heard that he was from Galilee, and it kind of alarmed him at first. There's all these things sometimes when we read the Bible we miss. Pilate is the governor of Judea. And so when he hears that Jesus is from Galilee, he goes, whoa, I got a problem here. He's not even in my jurisdiction. Isn't that how funny how some people are? You're the guy in charge, and somebody says, you got to make a decision, and you're like, it's not my responsibility. It is. It's Herod's. You can read the story, and he realizes after they said that he was from Galilee, Pilate, when he heard that, he realized it was the jurisdiction of Herod. Herod Antipas was the son of Herod the Great when the time of Christ was born. But Herod Antipas, he was the king. He's in Jerusalem at the time, and so Pilate's smart enough, thinking, hey, I don't want to get in trouble with something I shouldn't be doing. He sends Jesus, whom the scribes and the chief priests and the elders brought to him, and he sends him over to Herod's house. And of course, Herod, he had heard stories about Jesus and the miracle worker and the things that he'd done. By then, Jesus is very popular, and he actually was excited, the Bible says, to meet him, thinking that he was going to see a miracle. But Jesus said nothing to him. Just like Jesus. Jesus is the coolest cat around in the toughest situation. Thank you. Here he is, he says nothing. But Herod also was a fierce man and a wicked man. The Bible says they treated Jesus with contempt. They mocked him. They put a robe on him. And they said, who hit you? And sent him back to Pilate. Neither of these officials wanted to take the responsibility of the Lord. Now Jesus is back at Pilate's place. You know the story. And they call the chief priests and the rulers and the people. And he tells them, hey, I don't even find a fault in this man. Can you imagine? You ever been accused by anybody? And you know you're right? And somebody says, I know they did it. And most of us, what do we say? We say our part, right? We say, I'm going to say my piece. But Jesus didn't say anything. It's pretty amazing. And the few things that he did say, he didn't go back and say, you guys are lying, you know that. He didn't say any of that. But they began to accuse him. Herod didn't want any part of it. Now Pilate has to make some decisions. But Pilate says, well, I'm going to chastise him, and I'm going to let him go. That was a very good, sound decision. The only problem was the crowd, the people, the rulers, the chief priests, and everyone there, they didn't want to have any of that to happen. They have Jesus. He's arrested. He's in this situation. Here it is from nighttime to daytime, and they're not wanting him to go away. They cried, and the Bible says, away with this man. away with this man. Luke 23:20 says, Pilate, therefore, wishing to release Jesus, again called out to them. But they want nothing to do with it. And now they begin to scream, crucify him. Crucify him. Pilate gave in. He said, whatever you want to do with him, so be it. And they released Barabbas. They traded a murderer for a healer. They traded somebody who killed others, an insurrectionist, for somebody who prayed for people so they can be healed and delivered from their calamities. They prayed for the one who, they released Barabbas, a wicked man, and they sent Jesus to die. They led Jesus Christ away, and after being up all night, having been blindfolded, beaten, mocked, a crown of thorns placed on his head, they scourged him, and wanting on his way to the cross, he could not even bear the cross alone. They found a man, Simon a Cyrene, to help bear the cross for Jesus. What a story he had for the rest of his life. To say, I was the one that bare the cross for the Lord. In Luke 23:27 through 28, it says, and a great multitude of the people followed him, and women who also mourned and lamented him. This is the darkest time of Jesus' life. He's been mocked, beaten, bruised. He's in a painful situation. Could not bear the cross anymore. And he's at this place. They're leading him away to Golgotha, the place of the skull. The women are mourning and lamenting him. But Jesus turned to them and said something I thought was so powerful. He said, daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. In his darkest point of his life, don't weep for me. He did not look like the same Christ that healed people. Do not weep for me. He said, but weep for yourselves. Weep for your children. My message today is, when is the last time you have wept for someone you love? When is the last time God has moved on you to pray for somebody who is on the precipice of eternity without God? When is the last time? Let me tell you this morning, as a parent, we need to grip this and realize it's better to weep now while we have opportunity to change the course and direction of our children than later when it's too late. Jesus was trying to make a statement here. Your kids, my kids, are so important to us. And sometimes we're cavalier about it. Well, they're adults. They're going to make their own decision. Yes, you're right. They're your children, they're my children. But let me tell you something. If we weep now, it could change the course of their direction. If we weep now and say, you know what, Lord, I know it's hard. And how many has ever had a troubled child? We all have. We pass it by. And the enemy's trick is to say and to remind you so that way you just get caught up in life and you forget about your kids. But I'm here to remind all of us, we need to weep for our kids again. If we do not weep in this life, they'll step into eternity and they'll be doomed for hell. We have to come to the realization it's important that we do our part. We need to weep for them. Some of you grandparents, maybe they don't have everything right in your life, and you're looking at your grandchildren, and you're thinking, what can I do for them? Weep for them. Wanda, you've always wept for your grandchildren. You've always wept because it changes the course of action in their life. We need to weep now when we can. But you see, we're caught up in life. We're busy with our job. We're busy with our other things. We forget about weeping for those that are lost. Yeah. Jesus was at his most weakest point. And he turned to those women. Weep for yourselves, first of all. Yeah. your children. I ask you this morning, when is the last time you have wept for those that are lost? Let's all stand. I'm trying to reach the parents today. I know we prayed prayers. We deposited into that spiritual bank. But when's the last time you've wept for those that are lost? When's the last time it woke you up? It was overwhelming. Because if the Lord would come, they wouldn't make it. They wouldn't make that call. The darkest hour. Weep for yourselves and weep for your children. I would like to invite all the parents that are here today to come first. And if your children are here, you should bring them with you.